All right.
Okay. Good morning, afternoon, or actually it's afternoon here.
It's afternoon for us.
Probably morning.
It's probably
whatever the time is. Look, this is a two-part presentation this time. First of all, we put up another article that's actually going down in the records as the smallest article I've ever written.
I was quite surprised.
800 and something words, which means basically, I'm not going to tell you too much because normally I try and give a fair bit away because a lot of people aren't going to read it anyway. And I'm not passing judgment on it because I wouldn't read it. I don't read anything. So I'm certainly not passing judgment on others for something I can't do. But in the article we've got up, it's got a picture of is that a chimp?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it is. Anyway, and a human. All right. And what it's called is 17 bits and pieces that do not add up. And our next online conference is called Messages from Above. And I look upon this as one of the messages. And I'll go into more detail on the day. But I am going to share with you the reason why we chose that particular photograph. A, it was free, is that correct, Evan? And B, because it's only a small article, we didn't intend to put many pictures up, and that was sufficient. Because the article begins by actually doing two things, and I'll mention both of them now, and that's enough, and hopefully people read it after that. Number one, it starts with the assumption that's in mainstream science about a monkey mummy and a monkey daddy that made hominins. And that's primarily what that picture is about. Now, the problem with this is, number one, that from the very beginning, there was always supposed to be what was called a missing link. Well, you know what's happened to that missing link, Evan? It's lost.
Well, the missing link's gone missing.
It's gone. It was never there. That's half the problem. The missing link was always up there. It was flying around all the time and living with us quite a few times. And the point I'm making is I'm looking at 17 things that share one thing in common, and all 17 features that humans have, no other species, be it monkeys, be it praying mantis, be it polar bears, or be it any other species, has in common. And I'll start with one to begin with. Monkey daddy and monkey mummy, wherever they were. Originally it was 250,000 years ago, then it became 500, now it's about 780, 800,000 years ago. It keeps going back, and originally it was definitely in Africa. Now they're not sure where it was.
Could be Greece, could be Bulgaria, could be Siberia.
Well, to be honest, the oldest hominids found in the planet, number one is in Siberia, then Greece and Bulgaria are both in the 7 millions, and Siberia is in the 9.5 millions, and the oldest hominid found in Africa is in the 3.8s. Funny about that. Anyway, the point I'm making is that all monkeys, all primates, all gorillas, all orangutans, I don't care what you call them, all of that mob, and they're not all, they're distant cousins, but they've all got something to do with each other. And guess what? All of them have a sagittal keel on top, which means their skulls over the last 4, 5 million, 6 million, 8 million have never grown and never will. That's the size their skull will stay. Because of that keel at the top, there's no give or take. What makes hominids different, and that goes from Lucy and back further, a lot further now, they haven't given names from it, they're 3 times older, and all the way through to today. All the different hominins, be it dragon man, be it Denisovan, Neanderthal, be it sapiens, all had sutures. And that's why Lucy is 600 and we're double. Because as people know, when the child is born, the skull isn't fused, but for monkeys it is. For apes it is. And there's no suturing because there's nothing there to suture. They've already got a keel on top. You can see it with the gorillas. You can actually see the bit of the keel showing on the skull.
So there's your sutures.
There's the normal sutures that we all have. Well, actually not all of us, because I know foreign beings don't have them, and nor did the Neanderthal or the other ones. Now, last time round, we did speak in a lot of detail with Dr. Caesar about proof. Now, I will go over that proof in the first 5 minutes this time around, and after that, we're going to be looking at something called messages from above. Now, we've brought in Senya as a name, isn't it? And I can't say her last name properly. She's going to be talking on behalf of and in the spirit of Dolores Cannon. Now, the reason we're doing that is because we're now looking for messages from above. Now, what I've learned from Mesref in the many conversations we've had and questions asked is of all the on-world prophets, and I'm including Edgar Casey, and he scored particularly well, all of them, Dolores Cannon scored the best. She's never made a prediction that I haven't run past Mesref that he's either agreed to or qualified and then agreed to it. He's put his own take on the same thing but didn't dispute it. Now, because of that, that's why we asked Senya to come along. And she is also, like Leah, and I used to think, saying this is a bit dodgy, but I now know after meeting Leah and beforehand Valerie Barrow, it's not. She's in contact with them and they're giving messages, and they are messages from above. And that's the sort of thing we're going to be doing. We'll be looking at that. Now, in the case of the messages from above, I spoke before about that monkey-like being. Then I want to make another point. We chose the face of the chimp, didn't we? And the trace of all humans or a human. Right, and now there's the point. If Evan had chosen the pictures of 30 other chimps and you put them all together and I was sitting in the same position at the same angle with the same lighting, do you know what? You would have problems sorting out which was which. But if we put together 30 other humans and put them next to one another, you'd know every one of them was different. And that's one of the issues we make about this, that we come from, we're told, we come from a part of nature. And remember, all the rhinoceroses have roughly the same face, the same height, the same weight, the same power, the same strength. You put together 100 human beings, and the one thing they won't share is the same height, the same weight, the same strength, the same coordination. Every one of them will be different. Some people can just pick up 10 kilos. Others can comfortably pick up 200 kilos. My point being, one of the messages from above that was given to us is our genetics. That's what we're talking about. We're going to be looking at that in a lot more detail. That's a message. And the message is, have a look at yourself and then look at everyone else on this planet, every other species on this planet, and you will find that all other species fall into certain norms and they behave within those norms and exhibit features that fit within that norm. We don't have any norms. Nothing is the same. Evan is apparently my son, right? Now we look at one another and we virtually don't look the same, but I'm going to tell you, Labrador mummy and Labrador daddy, when they have Labrador pups, they're all going to look roughly like mummy and daddy. But when it's humans, man, nothing works the same. So that's one aspect of what we'll be looking at. We're also going to be looking at things that are on from the messages from above. And one of the things we'll be talking about is this particular rock. The one I'm holding up now, which has 9 spirals running around it with the emu prints on it. And on the other side, it has, I think, 7. Okay. Now, what I am going to tell you is with that particular rock there, and I'm just going to talk about that one, not both of them today, because there was a second rock that was given a reading also. And this rock is supposed to be made in stick, stone and bone. And as you can see with both of them, that's not the case. That's not actually what we're going to be talking about. What I'm going to be talking about is when we do get new information that comes in, be it rings, be it rocks, be it anything that comes in has been given to us. Quite a few days are spent holding the rock before I start to look at it from an empirical viewpoint. And then after that's done, we then have a standard procedure. We go to an elder, we go to a psychic, and if need be, we go to Mesref, don't we, Evan?
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, we went to a fourth person, didn't we?
We did.
Separate again. And what was interesting was, and we'll just talk about this one alone, was number one. Let's start with Arnie Trudy Roberts, who up this way is the keeper of the languages and a very cultural lady, one we've got a lot of respect for. And she held both these rocks, and she said that made the most outrageous claim for this rock, which turned out to be right, didn't it, Evan?
Yeah.
But we're not going to talk about that today. We'll talk about it on the day. And by the way, it's free on the day, so don't feel like we're trying to profiteer out of this. Someone recently, Evan, didn't they? They wrote an article. Tell them what they called me.
Oh, weren't you a profiteer and a marketeer?
I'm a marketeer, right?
Marketeering expert.
Yeah, that's right. And I was going to ask Evan, and I'll do it now, that he says that what I've been doing is clever marketing. Now, clever marketing means selling a product, doesn't it? Making lots of money.
Yeah, it does.
Tell me how that's worked out for you over the last few years while I've been profiteering and marketeering.
Yeah, well, I'm not concerned about what's going on in the banking situation because I have no money in the bank.
That's right. You have nothing in the bank. And the last couple of days when it was 36 degrees, where were you marketeering then? What were you doing?
I was outside.
Labouring, landscaping.
Mowing lawns. Weeding.
35 degrees, 98% humidity.
Yeah.
How do you feel my marketing's going so far on a scale of 1 to 10?
Well, the word that popped in my head was dreadful.
Oh, no, don't use dreadful. Mark, we do numbers here.
Numbers, okay. So what, 10 being fantastic?
10's being fantastic and you're wallowing in luxury. Mm-hmm. 1 is you're in abject poverty all the time and your bank account nearly every month goes to nothing. So that would be a 1. So what would you give me for my marketeering skill?
About a 2.
A 2? Oh, God, I'm surprised I got that.
But anyway, I'm in an optimistic mood today.
You must be. Anyway, regardless of that, what was interesting was, okay, so that our first guide told us that. Then we went to our psychic guide. So I'm not so sure my marketing's so good, the person who made this massive, there's a nice picture I was going to put up of the second side, which I'm going to side. The second side, none of the people that were working on this looked at the second side because most of them were women. The 2 that touched it were women, and they didn't want to look at the 9-sided one. They just did the 7. Evan's showing you the 9 there.
I'll find the 7 now.
Okay. Now, then what happened, ladies and gentlemen, we took it to our resident psychic, and she told us, number 1, yes, this was found in Australia, but they didn't do it. It came from the people above. And then she talked about the Pleiades.
Is that it?
That's it, yeah.
Okay.
She spoke about the Pleiades, which is interesting because I didn't make the point, but there are 7 spirals there. Now, you could just say, oh, she just picked that up anyway because she could see the 7 and we didn't tell her. Well, she went further than that. She started talking about the Pleiades and spoke about the aggression, the warfare and the damage that took place in the Pleiades. Now, I've got to tell you, when she was telling me this and kept talking about ashes, didn't she? Ev was there too, and I'm thinking, whoa, Pleiades, no man, they're all love and light. That mob, they're beautiful. They've been great from the beginning. They never had any problems. Anyway, and she also told me this was made by beings from above, and it was used for initiation to integrate and then learn their story. So next up, we went to Mesref, didn't we? Because we've got this off-world talking. And then what he tells me about this is, number 1, she said, see this particular thing here that I'm holding up at the moment, the one that Evan showed us. Evan just put up the Pleiades then. We are told for Mesref, it is about the Pleiades, and it was made by the no-foreign being, someone from above. So she got all of that right again, as she normally did. And then I asked her, well, hang on for a sec. I think she got part of this wrong. Because she was talking about conflict and warfare and ashes and all sorts of things in the Pleiades. And everyone knows Pleiades is all love and light. Mesref said, No, not to begin with. Just like someone we deal with at the moment, us. There was fighting. There was, I think, some areas that the atmosphere is so weak or something, they can't even live there, can't they?
Yeah.
There was destruction. All the things that she was reading was exactly the same. And then Mesref then told me about this, and he used two words. And I'm not lying, they are the same two words that the psychic used. Said it was used for initiation, and the word he used was to integrate, which is exactly what Alison said, didn't she? Integrate. So, ladies and gentlemen, there I had three people telling me this thing is not made, and he told us when it was made, didn't he? 280,000 years ago. And then from left field, someone contacted us, and he showed us four plates, and two of the objects were on things this thin and just like that. Then I found out further, he told me where he got them from. Virtually the same place, same general area as these ones. Then it starts to get interesting. He told me how the ones he's got, not that one, please, Evan, keep going. The one we're after, not yet. No, keep going the other way. Go back to the first one.
That one?
Put that up, show them that one. Okay. What then happened was there's one of them coming up at the moment, ladies and gentlemen. There it is there. You can see in the same depth of skill. This was not done by a sharp rock cutting into that time after time. Notice it's exactly the same shape, exactly the same thinness. But here's the trick. Now, what we found out with this was he told me that it was given, and we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, that's why I'm getting it ready.
Okay. It was given to a health worker by the original people. They didn't pay for money. They gave it to her because, and I'm only quoting what I was told here, the Pentecostal missionaries were there and telling the original people anything that doesn't look like Jesus, it's from the devil and you must destroy it. And that's what was happening within the tribe. They were destroying these objects, so they gave it to her to look after. But they made one point when she was given this, and this guy told me the same thing. He said they were not made by the original people, they were made by the people from the stars. And that's an exact quote that was given to this lady at the time. Now, what then happened is this gentleman dropped one of them recently. And lo and behold, when he dropped it, he then sent us the picture of the drop, and there it is. And he said, my God, you're not going to believe it underneath there. It's not the same color. It's not the same red color at all. It's metal. He believes it's a piece of metal. So that's an interesting part of this message from above. So hopefully what we are going to do, we're in the process of contacting an academic who will be able to look at that shard and validate whether it is actually metal. He's insistent that it is. But what I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that'll be another part of this message from above that we're going to be talking about. And of course, because it is messages from above, we're going to read, Evan and I are going to read a transcript from Interview with an Alien with Mesref. And it's the first one. And the first one is primarily about the Uluru ceremony that took place, Evan. And we've shown people last time that. And what we're going to recommend for the people who haven't seen that, they go back and watch that one separately, because we can't put that all up again. We've done 27 of these shows, and we've made a promise and we've held to it, although it's getting pretty tricky. We don't repeat ourselves.
I'll try not to.
We haven't yet, but we're getting close, I've got to tell you.
It's getting harder and harder.
That's 57 hours so far.
It's fine for the guests, but we've been here 27 times.
Yeah, and we do 2 hours each time. So it does get tricky, but having said that, we're still keeping new ground all the time. So we're going to be looking at him and his take on the whole thing. And what I'll be doing is asking the question. Evan will be with Mesref. He'll do it in a serious, slow voice. And then we'll have a bit of discussion about what that means and move on to the next one. And of course, we can't prove that's true. Now, everything we did in the last episode, yeah, we can prove it all. It's all got, we've got the chemical readouts. We've got all this archaeology done. We've got the papers. Everything's done and dusted. This time we're moving further ahead simply because that's the way it should be. So, ladies and gentlemen, we invite you to have a look at the 800 and a bit word essay that's written on the 17 things that don't fit out. That'll be part of the script we're going to talk about on the weekend, so you get a bit of a heads up with that.
So if you want to go back and watch the last one with Dr. Caesar, just click on there and then scroll down, and then you'll see that's the first one on the page, and then you can grab it as a one-off purchase.
Oh, can they do a one-off purchase
Yep.
and not have to become a member? Okay,
Yep.
all right, because we can't. Once we put it up on the day for free,
which is what we're going to do this time.
we're going to do this time. It's going to be up all day, so if people don't want to pay money or think I want to see what this is like first, you can. And then if you think it's worthwhile, there are 26, 27 before.
So yeah,
26, yeah.
There they all are.
They keep going all the way through. We've got lots of different elders there, different times. We've got different people there. Michael Tellinger, Freddie Silver, all sorts of different people. A lot of people you have heard of, some you haven't. That's Alec Parsons, I see there. Paul Anthony Wallace, I see in that one.
Harry's from Bondi Rescue.
Harry's from Bondi Rescue. Yeah, it's all different. Uncle Lewis, we've got quite a few different people, many elders too. If you want to become part of that, then it's a very cheap monthly thing, which you sign up for 12 months. If you're sick of it after that, you can go away. You might have watched it all by then. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we'll sort of leave it at that because Evan and I have got to have lunch in a sec, haven't we?
We do.
So we invite you along to our free online conference. And there we'll be talking about, obviously, I've got a couple of questions I'm asking Mesref about Dolores Cannon. And I think this time around with Mesref, we're looking at something that might be of interest to a few people in this country and in this planet. It's the pyramids, their function, why they're here, what they're meant for. I'm asking you about the ones in Mars. I'm asking about the buried one in Alaska. We're asking different questions about pyramids, about whether they're still functional, what their purpose is. And I'll give you one heads up. The one thing they are not is great, big, massive tombs to bury one person. They have a few other functions, and he talks about that in some detail. So join us. It'll be on Sunday in Australia, and for the rest of the civilized world, Saturday.
Yeah, so, yeah, unfortunately, it might be a bit late for people in Britain, but...
I'm sorry for those of you from New Zealand, because we would both be categorised as the uncivilized world if I said that, and it's a bit close to the truth, but that's okay. We're allowed to say that because we come from here.
Yes.
Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, and hopefully we'll see you this weekend. Okay.
See you all very
Bye.
soon. Bye.